Welcome to Every Fact Ever. Like and subscribe for more amazing facts. My name is Ian and this is 50 facts about the American Revolution, written by Diva Stipuli. Fact number 1. On December 16th, 1773, 342 chests of tea weighing over 92,000 pounds were dumped into the Boston Harbour by the Sons of Liberty. The Boston Tea Party was the first major act of defiance by the colonists, which led to the start of the American Revolution in 1775. Fact number 2. The Daughters of Liberty used molasses and flowers instead to tar and feather loyalists. It was common practice for the patriots to tar and feather loyalists, but the ladies opted for a less painful alternative. Fact number 3. The word independence never appears in the Declaration of Independence. Instead, it's titled The Unanimous Declaration of the 13 United States of America. Fact number 4. In 1782, a 21-year-old, Deborah Sampson, dressed as a man, called herself Robert Shirtliff Sampson after her deceased brother and enlisted in the 4th Massachusetts Regiment of the Continental Army. She served for 1 year until a doctor discovered her secret while treating her for an unhealed injury, and she was discharged with honour. Fact number 5. 16-year-old Sybil Ludington, the daughter of a colonel, rode 40 miles on her own from 9 p.m. till dawn to alert New York militia members that the Brits were burning down Danbury, Connecticut. In contrast, a Boston silversmith was accompanied by as many as 40 other men on his midnight ride to sound the alarm that the Brits were coming. Fact number 6. Some soldiers took time away from the battle to enact in professionally produced plays in cities like New York during the war. These cities were controlled by the British Army. Fact number 7. Since they didn't have any money for a big navy, the Continental Congress hired privateers, aka pirates, to attack the British ships. The pirates were then supposed to split the booty with the United States. Fact number 8. The Marquis de Lafayette was only 19 when he joined the Continental Army as a Major General in 1777. He was instrumental in George Washington's defeat of the British at Yorktown in 1781. Fact number 9. The general's teeth were a lie. The general's dentures weren't made from wood, as legend has it, but rather from hippopotamus ivory and cow's teeth held in place by metal springs. Fact number 10. King George III was a mad king. The king had a debilitating illness that caused abdominal pain, constipation, fever, insomnia, delirium, convulsions, and to stupor, which historians speculated rendered King George unable to quell the discontent in the 13 colonies. Fact number 11. A study of King George's hair revealed extremely high levels of arsenic that was 17 times greater than the minimum threshold for arsenic poisoning. This presents a darker alternative explanation of King George's ailment, previously thought to be caused by pulmonia. Fact number 12. The colonists were frustrated with the British because they were being forced to pay taxes, but had no representation in the British Parliament. The colonists used the phrase, "no taxation without representation," as a rallying cry. Fact number 13. The first shot fired in the war was on the morning of April 19, 1775, during the Lexington Mass. It became known as the shot heard around the world, a phrase borrowed from the opening stanza of Ralph Waldo Emerson's epic poem Concord Hymn. Fact number 14. John Adams acted as defense attorney for the British soldiers involved in the Boston Massacre. He took on their case because he believed in the importance of justice and a fair trial, which eventually became the catalyst for the revolution. Fact number 15. In addition to being the maker of America's first flag, Betsy Ross was an ardent supporter of the Patriot cause. When the British soldiers occupied her house in winter 1777-78, they nicknamed her the Little Rebel for her strong patriotic views. Fact number 16. Colonel Officer William Prescott orders his troops not to fire at the British soldiers until they could see the whites of their eyes. Having the discipline to hold their fire until the enemy was near was considered a sign that the American army had a chance of winning. Fact number 17. The Continental Army was a military force representing all of the colonies who were resisting the British authority in North America. The day after the Second Continental Congress formally announced the Army's creation, George Washington was named the Army's commander. Fact number 18. On the night of April 18, 1775, Paul Revere, along with 2 other riders, set out to warn the colonial militia of the British advancement from Boston. However, Revere was captured by the British before he could reach Concord, but he was the only one that Henry Longfellow focused on in his famous poem depicting the ride. Fact number 19. The Battle of Saratoga was a major turning point during the American Revolution. It marked the first great American victory and prompted France to openly enter the war on the American side. Fact number 20. There was a sequel to the original Boston Tea Party incident. On December 16, 1773, Boston Sons of Liberty tossed 342 chests of tea from 3 individual ships into the Boston harbour to protest against the taxes imposed on them by the Tea Act. Not satisfied with the results, they had staged a second tea party on March 7, 1774, just to make sure senior officials understood their message. Fact number 21. Many of the Sons of Liberty tried to pass themselves off as Mohawk people. This was to hide their identities, since the Sons of Liberty knew that they would be facing severe punishment were they caught. Fact number 22. George Washington condemned the Boston Tea Party. Washington believed that the East India Company should be compensated for their loss, which was estimated to be $1 million. Fact number 23. Benjamin Rush, one of the Founding Fathers, wrote a strong letter to Patrick Henry lobbying for Washington's removal as Commander-in-Chief after Washington's several defeats in 1777. What Rush hadn't realised was Henry was a loyal friend to Washington and immediately alerted him to the plot against him. Fact number 24. After the Battle of Germantown, American soldiers found a fox terrier on the battlefield with the British General Howe's name on its tag. Washington's men wanted to keep the dog as retribution for the defeat, but Washington instead returned the dog, keeping with etiquette at the times. Fact number 25. When the American Revolution began in 1775, not all colonialists were in favour, as many as a third wanted to remain loyal to Britain. Those who supported the revolution became known as the Patriots, and those remaining loyal to the British Crown were called the Loyalists. Fact number 26. The non-commissioned British soldiers who served in the American Revolution were often called the Redcoats because of the brightly coloured red coats they wore. Contrary to popular myth, the colour red was chosen as a symbol of power and wealth, not to conceal bloodstains. Fact number 27. A lack of rations and pay, along with poor living conditions, led to a high desertion rate in Washington's army. In late 1776, as many as half of Washington's troops had fled, pushing him to promise his men formal discharges and a $10 bonus to re-enlist. Fact number 28. On January 1, 1781, 1,500 soldiers from the Pennsylvania line mutinied upon discovering that their enlistment was not for the 3 years they'd believed, but for the whole duration of the war. Frustrated and angry about their lack of pay and poor conditions, they marched to Philadelphia and brought their issues to Congress. Fact number 29. Haman Solomon was a Jewish broker who was responsible for funding the Continental Army and keeping the revolution going. A 10-cent commemorative stamp was issued in his honour in 1975, with the words "Financial Hero" printed on the back of the stamp. Fact number 30. Of the 25,000 American troops who died during the American Revolution, only a third of them died in battle. The rest died from sickness and other non-battle related causes. Fact number 31. The French saw the American Revolution as an opportunity to take advantage of the British difficulties. Less than a year after the revolution broke out, the French sent armies and ammunitions to the Americans, as well as large sums of cash. Fact number 32. When the French formally entered the war, the Spanish entered the war as allies to the French as well. The Spanish and French fleets combined outnumbered the British Royal Navy. Fact number 33. The Dutch entered the war and sided with the Americans at the end of 1780, turning the war into a true international conflict. The Dutch extended the geographical range of the war and supplied weapons to the American forces. Fact number 34. King George III purchased 30,000 German soldiers to assist in the war, since he didn't have enough soldiers in his own army to fight America. The soldiers were known as Hessians because the majority of them came from Hesse Castle. Fact number 35. The British governor, Lord Dunmore, printed a proclamation promising that African American slaves who fought with the British would be freed when the war was over, prompting the African American slaves to join the war to fight for their freedom. Fact number 36. When the war was over, Lord Dunmore stayed true to his promise and relocated those who had signed their names to the ledger to Jamaica, Nova Scotia, and Britain. Fact number 37. The African American slaves who signed up became known as the Black Regiment. The Rhode Island Assembly, who issued the decree, allowed them to enlist, also stipulating that they be immediately made free men after the Revolution. Fact number 38. Washington's forces suffered a major defeat at the Battle of Brooklyn in summer of 1776. The British occupied New York City and chased the remnants of the colonist army to the Delaware River. Fact number 39. the French and American troops trapped General Cornwallis army in Yorktown, Virginia in the autumn of 1781. While the French Navy cut them off from relief, the British surrendered. Fact number 40. When the Americans marched to war, patriots sang a piece of music called Chester. It was written by American composer William Billings, a friend of Paul Revere and Samuel Adams, and was regarded as America's first national anthem. Fact number 41. The iconic painting Washington Crossing the Delaware was actually painted in Germany by a German artist 75 years after the Battle of Trenton. The artist hoped that the scene would inspire liberal reforms during the European revolutions of 1848. Fact number 42. Nathan Greene was appointed the youngest brigadier general in the Continental Army in 1775. Interestingly, Greene was born a Quaker, was raised a pacifist, was asthmatic and had a pronounced limp, but taught himself to be a soldier by reading books about military tactics. Fact number 43. Women made great spies during the American Revolution. They were able to overhear important information, count soldiers, and observe troop movements while pretending to be maids, selling goods, or delivering food. Fact number 44. On November 16, 1776, Margaret Corbin and her husband John Corbin were defending Fort Washington from attacking Hessian troops when her husband was killed. She immediately took over by firing the cannon they were crewing, and continued to do so until she was seriously injured. 3 years later, she became the first woman to receive a pension from Congress. Fact number 45. George Washington almost didn't serve in the Revolutionary Wars. In 1755, during a vicious battle between Native Americans and British troops, Washington was almost shot and killed. Fact number 46. Catherine Moore Barry was an American spy messenger who played an instrumental role in warning the militia of invading British forces before the Battle of Cowpens. Legend has it that Barry tied her baby to her bedpost before riding out to issue her warning. Fact number 47. George Washington was actually a master at military deception. He and General Lafayette tricked the Brits by drafting a proclamation stating that the French army was going to attack Canada. Fact number 48. John Hancock was the first and only person to place their signature on the Declaration of Independence on July 4th. No other delegates signed the finished document until August 2nd of that year. Fact number 49. The British Army managed to inflict a major defeat on Washington's forces at the Battle of Long Island. The British then went on to occupy New York City and chase the disintegrating remains of the American army across New Jersey. Fact number 50. On September 3, 1783, Britain formally recognised the United States' independence with the Treaty of Paris. Towards the end of 1782, British and American negotiators in Paris signed the preliminary peace terms. And that was 50 facts about the American Revolution. Thank you for watching, and remember to like and subscribe for more amazing facts. And if you haven't had your facts fixed for today, try watching some of these videos. And if you have any suggestions for topics you'd like us to cover, please leave a comment down below.